Hey BookTube, Tim at Renerdified Reads, and with October starting, thought it'd be a good time to show you guys what I'm going to read for the month. It is my Spoopy season, TBR. We're back in my library where I do all my reading. My first book for the month that I'm going to read, I've already started, and I'm probably honestly going to finish it pretty quickly. It's not that big of a book, and it's Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is my second favorite author, I think, behind Blake Crouch. I say I think because there's a few other authors that could contend with that spot. Blake Crouch is cemented in number one spot, but Brandon Sanderson might be a number two certain times of the year, and there's a couple others I'm sure on my shelf that I could say are number two, but Neil Gaiman's up there. This is what the movie Coraline's based off of. So if you've seen that, you kind of have a basis of this. I am about halfway through. I'm on chapter 6, which is page 60-something, 64. And it's very surreal, like a Neil Gaiman book, very fantastical. Coraline finds a doorway in her house, I believe in whatever the British call the study, and it leads to a different world, and her parents are there, but they have buttons for eyes. And I know what happens based off the movie, at least the concept of what happens, so I'm excited to see what the original version is. And like I said, I'm about halfway through. I probably will finish it tonight. I started it this morning. I probably will finish it tonight. It's not a hard read. It's not a long read. It's very quick. In this copy, I don't like these covers, even though I have a lot of these type of covers for Neil Gaiman, because that's just what's out right now. This copy has so many good illustrations in it. Like chapter 6's illustration is really good. And there's just so many others. This is really, I love these illustrations. So this will definitely probably be a high read or a high rating for me, but definitely something that I will finish very quickly. Next book on my TBR list is Peter Klein's The Broken Room. This is dealing with a detective and a ghost, and the person brought her family over way back when, and it sounds very surreal, very much having a supernatural aspect to it, which is why I picked it up. I like Peter Klein's writing. I read Paradox Bound, was the first book by him I read, and I loved it. Really good. Love that type of sci-fi. And then I read his X series, and that kind of went downhill, in my opinion, towards the end. I tried reading them back to back, which I think might have played a factor into me not liking them as much towards the end. I still haven't read the final book of that series, but I still like Peter Klein's and I like his writing, so I'm excited to get into this. And it's a pretty thick book, but I don't think it will take me too long to read this. His writing is normally pretty snappy. The next book I have on this list is Walk the Vanished Earth by Aaron Swan, and this is a little bit of a cover buy for me because I love this cover. It's so colorful. It's so cool. As someone with tattoos who's currently working on a tattoo sleeve, I'm going to be drawn to art, and the more artistic a cover is, the more likely I'm probably going to check it out, and if the synopsis is something I'm interested in, I will pick it up. And this follows a family, I believe, across multiple timelines and their journey. I've heard really good things about it. Aaron Swan, on the author blurb on the back flap, says she's a teacher. I'm always going to support teachers. I think they're very underappreciated, and she's chasing a dream. I have a degree in writing, and I have yet to sit down and write the novel I've had in my mind for 15 years since I was a teenager. So kudos to her. Very excited to read this. This is going to be an early month read for me. I don't really have an order yet after Coraline, but this is probably going to be an early month read for me. Next book I have in my TBR for the month of October is The Book Eaters by Sunyi Dean. I hope I'm saying his first name right, or their first name right. This is another cover that really drew to me, with the outline of the people and the writing, the text. This is like the book title states. It's about people eating books, or creatures eating books, and sounds like an October read to me. I love books, and it's terrifying that things would eat books. So, found I don't think it's supposed to be scary or anything, but it's spoopy season. So I thought this would be a great October read, and it's not that long. It's not as short as Coraline. Coraline's a very short book. This is though under 100 or under 300 pages. So this is probably another quick read. I don't have any plans for October like it did September, where I wanted to prioritize shorter books at the start and then longer books towards the end. There's one book on here, maybe two, that I want to save towards the end for reasons I'll get to, but this one I'm very excited to get to. I'll probably pick this up relatively soon. Next book I have on my TBR for October is a chunky monkey. It's Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Rio. I have J.M. Rio's other book that he published a few years ago that I have yet to read. I'm going to try and get to this first and then read that. I've been holding on to this since the middle of the summer, and I haven't gotten to it. It takes place in 1800s England, I believe, with a bunch of kids or people who have power. I'm a big superhero fan, so I'm excited to get to this. The cover is nice. It's not my favorite cover, but it works. It's a big, chunky book. This is one of the ones that I probably will save towards the end of October, just because I think there's some Halloween type stuff with it. If you consider superheroes and dressing up as superheroes like I do, Halloween type activity. The next book I have on my TBR for October is Daughter of Redwinter by Ed McDonald. This is another short book that you don't see a lot in fantasy. This, again, is around 350 pages. And I know a little bit of this going in. It's fantasy. You follow a character, I believe, that saves someone, and a journey ensues after that. But I don't want to go into this knowing too much, because I think it'll help the journey a bit more. This is also something where I associate fantasy with October a lot, and again, that's the Halloween, dressing up as different characters. So this isn't necessarily a spooky read, but could be a spoopy read. Last book I have on my TBR for October is one that I'm going to hold off for sure until around Halloween, and that is Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky. I know, because it happens every year, I'm going to get into the mood for horror content towards Halloween, but horror that hope I don't really get scared, because I don't like getting scared. But this book, it's a couple years old. I have seen paperback copies of it all over now, because it's a couple years old, and I found a hardback copy bookstore last week or the week before for pretty cheap, at a very discounted rate. So I was like, let me pick it up. I haven't read it. It's supposed to be pretty good. It's supposed to be very horror, kind of like Stephen King. Never read Stephen King, so maybe if I liked this book by Chbosky, I'll get into Stephen King and read Stephen King next year. Who knows? I never thought I'd read Stephen King, but who knows? So book two, those are my books that I'm planning to read in October based off September. Might not get to all of them, but there's a few others too that are getting released in October that might bump some of these off the list. Blake Crouch is re-releasing his Pines trilogy, and I've never read those, and I want to go back and read for the first time his back catalog. I've reread the books I've read by him before, and now I want to go back and read his back catalog. I've got some of his old stuff on my shelves. Pines is going to be up there to read first. And The Atlas Paradox by Olivier Blake comes out this month too. So that might jump the list. So who knows if I get to these, but we'll find out in a month. In the meantime, hope everyone has a fantastic time reading, and I'll catch you next time.